Witch trials have been talked about for quite a long time, from documentaries to movies to books and TV shows, podcasts, and of course, YouTube videos. Today, if someone feels that they're being accused of wrongdoing, they may describe what's happening as a witch hunt. But not many will refer to that same situation as a werewolf hunt. Although there were werewolf trials where the accused were tortured and killed, werewolf stories have been around since the beginning of storytelling. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story from Mesopotamia in 2100 BCE, the hero abandons a love interest when he learns that she turned an ex-lover into a type of werewolf. In Greek mythology, King Lycaon of Arcadia tests Zeus's power by feeding him human remains of a boy that was sacrificed. As punishment, Zeus turned Lycaon and his sons into wolves. From the name Lycaon, we get the term lycanthropy, which was used for both changing into a werewolf and the delusion of being one, which was a recognized psychiatric condition for several centuries. In early Nordic folklore, the Saga of the Volsungs tells the story of a father and son who discovered wolf pelts that had the power to turn people into wolves for 10 days. They wore the pelts, transformed into wolves, and went on a killing rampage in the forest. It ended when the father attacked his son, causing a lethal wound. The son only survived because a raven gave the father a leaf with healing powers. Charges that people were werewolves came about during the witch trials throughout Europe in the 1400s. Officials in a region of Switzerland conducted large-scale prosecutions, blaming witches for crop failures, lameness, blindness, infertility, and impotence, as well as adopting wolf forms and mutilating cattle. According to some accounts, several hundred men and women were convicted and burned at the stake in Valais, Switzerland, starting in 1421. Many had a sack of gunpowder hung around their necks in order to ease their suffering. The gunpowder would explode when heated by the fire, killing the victim instantly. I'm not sure how much suffering this actually eased. And any land that the accused owned automatically transferred to a representative of the king. Plus, Christianity was trying to overcome the regional pagan traditions, and this seemed to encourage accusations of witchcraft and werewolf transformations via pacts with the devil. In 1521, inquisitors appointed by the Pope presided over several trials of alleged werewolfery, or the condition of being a werewolf. And like the witch trials, people were usually gruesomely tortured into confessing. Also in 1521, Frenchmen Pierre Bugeaud and Michel Verdun allegedly swore allegiance to the devil and claimed to have an ointment that turned them into wolves. After confessing to murdering several children, they were both burned to death at the stake. Gilles Garnier, known as the Werewolf of Dole, was a 16th century Frenchman who claimed to use an ointment with wolf morphine abilities. And as a wolf, he killed and ate children. He was also burned at the stake. Burning was seen as one of the few ways you could kill a werewolf. According to folklore, Peter Stubb, a wealthy 16th century farmer in Bedburg, Germany, turned into a wolf-like creature at night, attacking and eating many of the people of that town. Peter was eventually blamed for the killings after being cornered by hunters who said they saw him shapeshift from a wolf to human form. He was executed after confessing under torture to killing and eating animals, men, women, and children. He also declared he owned an enchanted belt that gave him the power to transform into a wolf. But that belt was never found. Men in black, magic salve, wearing certain belts or animal skins, wolf bites, attending witch ceremonies late at night were all things that could turn you into a wolf. Eyewitnesses testified to seeing beasts with huge glowing eyes and long pointed teeth running with superhuman speed. In the 1500s, a judge named Henry Bugeaud in St. Claude, France became convinced that a large group of witches and werewolves were terrorizing the community, and he ordered multiple arrests and prosecutions. He also wrote treatises on various forms of demons, including werewolves, and in 1598 alone pronounced 17 death sentences. But he also had to reconcile his legal views that the church's official position that God alone could transform humans and the devil could only create illusions. Noting that he had seen confessed werewolves snarling and prancing around the courtroom on all fours, Bigot concluded that they were clearly under the devil's spell and thus equally deserving of execution. Courts sometimes called in physicians to testify that confessed werewolves suffered from melancholia, a kind of depression that included mania and delusions. Some doctors, however, said that Satan could have caused such ailments by altering bodily fluids, which was impossible for defendants to disprove. In 1692 in Livonia, Sweden, an 80-year-old man named Thies was laughed out of court when he professed to be a werewolf and entering hell 3 times a year to battle witches and devils to ensure a good harvest. He was later convicted of practicing folk magic, sentenced to a flogging, and banished for life. One scholarly paper reported that 30,000 people were guilty of being werewolves in France alone between 1520 and 1630. But a Dutch historian traced the origin of that figure to a 1611 book by Pierre de Lancret, another zealous werewolf prosecutor who believed that every family practiced witchcraft in some form. He said that the total number of prosecuted werewolves in Europe probably did not exceed several hundred, which is still a lot considering none of them were actually werewolves. The full moon has long been associated with werewolves, and this myth has come from the belief that wolves howl at the full moon, which is false. Wolves howl to communicate with other wolves, especially at night. Wolves are nocturnal, so they're more likely to howl at night, which is when the moon may be out. Werewolf trials continued sporadically in the 17th century in Germany, the Netherlands, and Eastern Europe, particularly in isolated rural areas. But gradually, people stopped believing in these things. We can shake our heads in disbelief at the hysterias of witch and werewolf trials, but read or watch any newspaper, television broadcast, blog, or YouTube video, and there is always a hysteria to screech about. We all know that outrage clickbait brings in more ad revenue, no matter who gets ran over in the process. Instead of torture and burning at stakes, people now get demonetized and deplatformed, or even fired from jobs just for saying the wrong thing, even if they can prove they are right. And the people performing the hysterics use the mantra of being on the right side of history, just like the witch accusers, torturers, prosecutors, and judges thought they were centuries ago. The only thing that I've learned from any of this is that hysterias will never end, and all you can do is hope not to be on the wrong side of one. Good night.
Boo.